Hi, good morning. It's Monday, the 13th of November, and you're watching the US edition of the video for today. Certainly, we're looking at the weather pattern for the upcoming week, but also, of course, the all important Thanksgiving holiday period as well. It does look as if we are going to have a lean towards colder, if not very cold, for the Midwest and the eastern side of the country. So, in today's video, I want to quickly look at the GFS ensemble, 500 millibar height anomalies, and we'll just skip through the snapshots of the next several days here. So at the very moment in time, we've got a system coming through the upper portion of the Midwest here. As you can see here, large negative here extending from Greenland all the way into northern Canada. That is where, of course, we've got the bundling of very, very chilly air indeed. We've got a pretty large ridge of high pressure over the Bering Sea, of course, at this time. But we've got a couple of systems coming into the Pacific Northwest. What that's essentially going to do is it's going to allow the dip in the jet here over the western side of the country here, bringing wind, rain, and snow into uh, even into northern and central portions of California. And what we'll do is the warmth that we've seen over the west and southwest is going to get transferred east, northeast, up into the Great Lakes, up into the northeast. The very areas that have been chilliest, we're going to see a moderation in temperature here. So what we've got here is, like I say, a fairly deep trough here, a series of low pressure systems coming in off the Pacific into the Pacific Northwest. So we're going to see a series of systems coming in. Those systems will cross the northern tier of the country here, bringing a roller coaster in temperature here. But it's as we start to go towards the period of the 18th and 20th, we're watching trough deepening over the back into the Great Lakes in the northeastern half of the country here. Got negative here over the Canadian archipelago, the western portion. But notice here the height build up over Baffin Island, Greenland, and into the Arctic region here. This is quite a significant, interesting turnaround in the upper air pattern, because what we've got is we've got a very, very deep trough come Monday at 6Z on the 20th, which is a week today, and that is a very interesting prospect for potentially storm activity, and as well as that, some rather cold air coming in to the pattern. But all the while, as that system kind of pushes into the eastern Canada here, we're left with a cool northwesterly flow. Great Lakes could produce snowfall downwind of the Great Lakes, of course, and we could be talking about some very mild air across the central portion of the country here. But that ridge over Greenland continues to deepen, and what I think we could be starting to talk about is Arctic air that was originally currently over the northern tier of North America could be getting funneled down into the eastern half of the country all the while. So as we push towards Thanksgiving weekend, we could be talking about some very, very cold air here. This is not the deepest of troughs uh, on the face of it, but it could be containing some rather cold air, maybe record-breaking cold air for the midwestern and eastern half of the country. So you can start to see a link up here between the western ridge and the Greenland ridge, the trough and cold air all sitting underneath that in the eastern half of the United States. A real quick looking at the 2 meter temperature anomalies, and you can see here as well that the model is reflecting that the temperature regime underneath the trough. And like I say, it could get rather chilly indeed across the eastern half of the country right around the Thanksgiving period here. Once again, I think this computer's got to be quite honest with you. It's probably needing a good clean out. It's a good 5 or 6 years old, but it's quite slow, as you can see here. So let's get back and see what the GFS ensemble is showing in terms of the temperatures, or the temperature anomaly, should I say. And you can see that it is indicating a brief moderation in temperature. Give me 2 seconds here, folks. I do apologize. There we go. Right, so we're back to square one again. Chilly across the northern tier of the country still, if you notice here, and extending down into the southeast, warm in Florida. But as we skip through here, we'll moderate the temperatures. Still holding on to some fairly cold air in the east. That eventually gets briefly kicked out. But notice here the bundling of cold Greenland and over much of Canada here. And then, of course, as we reverse the upper height field, that cold air then gets driven southeastwards here. from about the 18th through the 20th. Now you notice here big contrast and gradient here. Super cold air across Western Canada, super warmer, may I add, for the time of the year, extending from Texas up into the lower Great Lakes here. That is a perfect scenario here for cyclogenesis and strong storm development here. Then in comes the cold air. This is the period now 18 through 22, and we'll have some very chilly air over the eastern half of the country and the southeastern half of the country, while we've got warm in the west here. So this is what we're talking about here. In the run up to Thanksgiving, it looks as if we could have some potentially very cold weather, as well as the potential for snowstorm development here. So we hold on to that cold air over the eastern half of the country as we go right through Thanksgiving itself. Before we see some moderation in temperature here. Interesting things to come. Keep it right here on markfromweather.com and on YouTube, and I'll be back with the written version of this post later on today. Bye for now.